My dear strange listeners, I assume some of you have jobs, and I assume you have to deal socially. My worst nightmare, honestly, I really thought being a librarian would help. Uh, it did not. I get bullied by my mistress's friends all the time. Yet, some of their stories are very fascinating, and this one comes from one of her friends, a long-time necromancer, but also a night creature who is born from the very rituals she follows. Dear strange listeners, have you heard of someone remembering their past lives in dreams? Do you believe dreams go deeper than the mind and maybe deeper than the soul? My dear strange listeners, is it time for a spooky dream story? Dear strange listeners, we already established the theme of the story today, dreams. But to be more specific, this story comes from one of my regulars. Her name is Raya, a 17th century human turned nightmare. Oh, it's they said it's night creature. Night creature it is. Despite being something that is supposed to look something that came straight out of hell, they look ethereal. A Renaissance monster, if you will. Or the French Revolution, they said they were there. Saw the execution of King Louis. Although I'm unsure which one. Rhea is an odd creature for even her kind. She is more human-like, retained more of her traits, retained all of her memories, including her name. Now Rhea is also very intellectual. She likes her history. She likes her geography, I suppose. You could say she is more inclined towards social sciences. Yet, just a week ago, she came, looking paler than usual. And it is odd because she is grey, quite literally grey in skin. You see, Rhea had been troubled by a sequence of dreams that she had been having. She rubbed her temples and said, I am sure that these are not the memories of my life. And that's when we decided to delve into research about night creatures. The library of ours, of course, didn't have much to offer, so I had to outsource certain books. Turns out, since night creatures are the amalgamation of a human body and demons, or demonic magic, whatever you would like to call it, certain times past memories might come flooding in. But Rhea and I, despite being supernatural beings, tend to lean on the skeptic side. Since Rhea has strong memories, I asked, why don't you jog it up? Maybe the dreams are vivid because you might have read it somewhere. She racked her brains. She tried to remember every single book and detail she had read even 6 months prior to her dream sequences. Nothing. She looked at me and said, something similar, but nothing of the sort that could explain my dreams. So the best explanation that we have right now is either she needs to get checked in, which is going to be a problem because she's not exactly human, people or strange listeners. she's remembering things because the demonic magic has some effects. Who knows? And yet, I have permission from Rhea here today to tell you her story. It begins with one day. Yeah, she sleeps in the day. Deal with it. When Rhea finally sets down to sleep as dawn cracks in. Now, Rhea doesn't remember when the dream began or where it ended, but she said she could see herself as a kid, a small child. But this wasn't her childhood from her human years. This was different. The scenery looked like an Irish countryside. And I paused and asked, that's quite specific, but she said that's what she remembers. She said she remembers holding the hand of a woman and looking up. She couldn't see her face, just the torso, and she was very pregnant. She said in the dream, she recognized her as her mother. And even before her mother knew, she paused. She said, I knew as a child in the dream that my mother is carrying a sister. Which was again odd because the way she was describing the Irish countryside, it felt like she was in the medieval ages. I mean, the outfits, she said browns and whites and ragcloth kind. She said everything looked like she was in medieval era, so it was very odd for her to know that the baby, her mother, carrying the dream was a girl. Yet she remembers in the dream looking out distantly to fields and seeing a woman in her 20s. She said, it is odd that I only saw her for a second, but I remembered all the details. She wore traditional Irish clothing meant for teenage women or women that aren't quite married yet. She had long red hair. She said, not quite ginger, but not too red either. I'm not sure what that means, but I think that's her description. She said she had sharp blue eyes, piercing even, as if luring her. And then Rhea paused. What is it? I asked, seeing her expression filled with confusion and unsurety. She said, I don't know how to explain this, but it felt like she was surrounded by golden light, or as if there was a golden flame that radiated from her. Quite the odd occurrence for a dream, I said. And she nodded. And then she proceeded to say, the moment she said, you're not supposed to be here, Rhea seemingly woke up in the mid-afternoon, drenched in sweat when night creatures don't really sweat. Night creatures don't have a body temperature high enough to sweat. Yet she did. She brushed it off as something that was just a dream. I mean, according to her, for a week or two, nothing ever happened, nothing out of the ordinary. She kind of put it at the back of her mind and went on with whatever work night creatures do, I guess. But 2 weeks later, she had another dream, a longer one, she supposes. She said that she was very exhausted, so she ended up in bed before dawn, her usual sleeping time. And she said, I can't even begin to tell you how much that dream horrified me. And what she explains kind of makes sense. She said she remembers herself being much older now, unmarried, in her 20s, and having the feeling that she never wants to marry. Kind of felt, I guess. And she says that it was because she had the high driving force of taking care and looking after her sister, the very little one that she dreamt of being an unborn child. She said, in the dream, I remember that our parents passed away because of an illness that plagued the entire village. And now it's just me and my sister. I make a living by making clay items. And it's odd because I don't think Irish people ever made clay items. I apologize, my history is not that good. I'm reiterating what Rhea said. She said, I'm unsure why I'm making clay pots, or why I'm making clay items at all. But it's making me a living, and it's feeding the both of us. She said that she remembers one vivid sequence out of the entire blurry dream, where she saw her sister, her beautiful hair falling down, cascading in her back, and she danced with the wind. She said the entire time I couldn't see her face clearly, but I remember seeing her eyes, and I remember the wonderful greens that they have. I remember the color of her hair being very dirty blondish, but I'm not sure if it was blonde or brown. I assured her by handing her a cup of tea and some freshly baked cookies that my mistress made. As she ate them and had her tea, she continued, the rest of the sequence was like a vivid nightmare that I wish I didn't want to see. She remembers a man, well into his 30s, approaching her sister who, according to her, seemed like she was 12 and had recently started menstruating. She said that the man came to ask her hand in marriage. And it was odd for her, and it enraged her because the man was already married and his wife was 8 months pregnant. She scoffed and said, whatever the era, men and their audacity. Men and their audacity indeed. She remembers the next sequence of her sister being burnt at the stake. And she hates the fact that she remembers it vividly. She said, the man persuaded the entire village, enraged the entire village into believing she was a witch. He also persuaded his wife to vow for him, and she vowed indeed, saying that her husband was driven away from her because of my sister. That she indeed had bewitched him, and she was a witch. She said, in the entire ordeal, I never saw my sister scream in the flames. The flames engulfed her, and the more they engulfed her, the more I found myself screaming and struggling in the dream. People tying me down, people spitting at the ground that she was being burnt in, people throwing stones at her as she burnt. But her eyes? Oh, her eyes. Rhea shuddered. And I found it odd for a night creature to shudder. They have such cold blood temperatures. They shouldn't have a chill down their spine. Yet Rhea did. She said, her green eyes pierced through my soul as if to tell me, avenge me, avenge me, avenge me. And she said, I just stood there frozen, everything devoid as I kept screaming and couldn't feel my voice anymore. Her body was charred and warm as I tried to hug her, burning my own hands in the process. Yet, these people came to me, trying to take her away, saying The witch cannot be buried in the village land. It'll be deemed infertile. And something in me snapped, Rhea said. Rhea said she picked up a stone that was nearby and bashed the villager's skull. She didn't kill them, just enough for them to go unconscious. The next thing that she did horrified her, too. She said, I remember going into the room. I remember watching the kids of that man play before I came with that stone. I grabbed the boy that was the youngest, a toddler, and kept hitting him until he couldn't move, until I couldn't hear his breath. He was dead, but my vengeance and my anger was not. And I could almost see Rhea shuddering at it. Rhea may be a night creature, but she's not ruthless or cruel. She is soft, she is kind. It is not in her virtue to kill the innocent. And yet, for her, this was her worst nightmare in every imaginable way. She was killing a toddler in her dream. That was not all. She said next I went to the boy who was slightly younger. He ran and hid beneath the table and I dragged him and I did the same. Keep hitting with the stone until they don't breathe. My mind was engulfed. My eyes were bloodied, she said. She said from this point of the dream, it felt like as if she was watching herself kill all these children in third person POV, or point of view, as you all say. She said that she wanted to stop, but she just couldn't control her body as if she was just reliving a past memory. But the memory wasn't from her human life. The memory wasn't like any other. She never killed anyone in her human life. She said, finally, I went to the boy, same age as my sister, and he put up a fight, she said. He slashed my hand so the stone would fall, and fall it did. I lost 2 of my fingers, but I did not stop. He slashed through my wrists. He slashed through my stomach. Deep, but not deep enough, she said. She said she was finally able to get hold of the knife, and she kept on stabbing till he couldn't move, till he stopped moving, till blood etched into the wood of the house, till blood splattered everywhere. And by the time she did all of this, the pregnant wife, now nearing her due date, came and saw the horrific occasion. And too, she said, her screams were like an amusing music to me. Her scream was something that I really wanted to see. And that did horrify Rhea because Rhea is not that type of person, like I said before. She said she grabbed the woman by her hair, begging her to tell the truth. She said, I told her, if she told everyone the truth, I would spare her and her child. And to which she said that in the dream she felt a relief because she couldn't really control herself. And she really did not want to kill a woman who was doing it because she had no other choice. The woman in front of a lot of villagers admitted to the fact that her husband had lied because he was rejected, and that she was forced to do so because her husband would have killed her children and her. So in fear, she did so. The next sequence that she describes was even too much for me. She said that I smiled in the dream, a maniacal smile, and I killed her. By that time, I think I just didn't want to drink or eat anything anymore. I settled down my teacup and watched Rhea as she keeps hers down. Just one sip is all she took. And I could really tell that she was horrified by the things that she had seen. She told me, I killed her. I severed her head. But I did not stop at that. I cut open her belly and pulled out a child that cried. I pulled out a child that I deemed born out of blood and vengeance. I had killed his mother, I had killed his siblings, and as I gave it away to an older woman who was equally terrified but trying to keep her calm in the situation, I knew what I needed to do next. In the next part, Rhea described how she ended up finding the accused man, or in this case, the criminal man. How she dragged him, covered in blood. With this power, even though she was almost bleeding herself to death. Showing him the corpses of his family, watching him go mad. Again, she said the same phrase. Their screams were music to my ears. Every time she would narrate a part of the dream, I could see the dread and horror in her face. She could not imagine that she had done that. And yet, in the dream, she was sure that she was living a life that was before the human life she had. She said, in the end, I started with his genitalia. I started with his legs, and his head was the last to go, and I made sure he was alive in all that pain so he could know what he had done. And I think in this entire dream, that was the only satisfying part for me. Watching an entitled man get punishment, but at what cruel cost? Costed a lot of lives. If I had to count, it's probably 6 in total. 6? No, 5. Yes, 5 in total. The unborn child survived, according to her dreams. She said after this all was done, she felt like she was surrounded by people in white shrouds. And she said, I don't think this is a coincidence, but I saw the same exact woman from my previous dream when I was a child. She had grown old now. Grays in her red hair, her hair tied back as if to symbolize she was married now. But those piercing blue eyes and that golden light never changed. And the phrase, "You're not supposed to be here." Yet, she said, she added one more sentence, which made it more than odd, and it was, "You're... oh, oh, okay. I apologize, Rhea just left." And she said, she further added, "You were not supposed to witness this." And that's where Rhea's story kind of ends, since she woke up and felt like it was very weird for her to go back to sleep because she was so spooked by this entire scenario. Now, Rhea did make some sketches out of this dream, and I shall put it out for you, with her permission, of course. But, my dear strange listeners, what do you think? Was it just a vivid dream as we rationalize? Or was it more than that? Now, I shall see you for the next story. Goodbye, my dear strange listeners.